Hey, yeah, all. I've been meaning to share this bone-chilling experience I had a few months back when I decided to find a new roommate on Craigslist. I'm still shaking just thinking about it, so bear with me as I relive that horrifying night. It all started innocently enough. I had just moved to a new city and needed to find someone to share the rent with. I posted an ad on Craigslist, outlining what I was looking for in a roommate. After sifting through numerous responses, I finally found someone who seemed like a good fit. His name was Alex, and he claimed to be a grad student in the same field as me. We exchanged a few emails and decided to meet at a local coffee shop to discuss the details. The first meeting went smoothly, and we seemed to get along well. Alex was soft-spoken and had an air of intelligence about him. He even cracked a few jokes that made me think I'd hit the roommate jackpot. After a few more meetings and conversations, I felt confident enough to invite him to see the apartment. We agreed on the terms and conditions, then decided to sign the lease together. Little did I know that this decision would lead to a nightmarish ordeal. The first few weeks living with Alex were uneventful. He kept to himself most of the time, which was perfect for me as I needed my space to focus on work. However, things took a dark turn one evening when I returned home after a late night at the office. As I entered the apartment, an eerie silence hung in the air. The only sound was the soft hum of the refrigerator. I called out for Alex, but there was no response. I assumed he was either out or had already gone to bed. But as I walked further into the apartment, I noticed something odd. The door to his room was slightly ajar. Curiosity got the better of me, and against my better judgment, I pushed the door open. What I saw inside sent shivers down my spine. The walls were covered with strange symbols and drawings, as if Alex had been involved in some occult ritual. The room was dimly lit by candles, casting an eerie glow over the unsettling scene. My heart raced as I took in the bizarre sight. I couldn't comprehend what I was seeing. It was like something out of a horror movie, but the worst was yet to come. As I continued to explore the room, I stumbled upon a notebook hidden under the bed. Flipping through its pages, I discovered writings that seemed to be a mix of ramblings and incantations. The words were twisted and dark, hinting at something far more sinister than a mere hobby or fascination. Just as the gravity of the situation began to sink in, I heard a creaking sound behind me. I turned around slowly, my eyes widening with horror as I saw Alex standing in the doorway. His eyes were wide and manic, and a sinister grin stretched across his face. "Surprised, weren't you?" he sneered, his voice sending shivers down my spine. I tried to maintain composure, but fear gripped me like a vice. "What the hell is going on here, Alex?" I stammered, my gaze darting between him and the unholy symbols on the walls. He chuckled darkly, pacing towards me with deliberate steps. "You were never meant to see this, but I guess the cat's out of the bag now." Suddenly, it became clear that I was in way over my head. I needed to get out of there, but the door to the apartment was blocked by a heavy piece of furniture. Alex continued to advance, his eyes fixated on me with an unsettling intensity. As panic set in, I mustered the courage to make a dash for the balcony. The night air was cold as I climbed over the railing and onto the narrow ledge outside. I glanced back to see Alex, now wearing a twisted grin, following me with unnerving determination. I didn't have much of a choice. I edged along the ledge, my heart pounding in my ears. The city below seemed like a distant blur as I focused on each precarious step. I could hear Alex's footsteps behind me, growing louder and more menacing with each passing moment. Just when I thought I couldn't take it anymore, I reached the end of the ledge and found a fire escape. I scrambled down as fast as I could, praying that I'd escape whatever twisted plans Alex had in store for me. As I reached the ground, I didn't dare look back. I sprinted through the darkened streets, my breath coming in ragged gasps. It felt like I was in a nightmare, and any moment I would wake up safe and sound. Eventually, I made it to a nearby police station and spilled the horrifying tale to the officers. They accompanied me back to the apartment, where they found Alex gone, leaving behind a room filled with evidence of a dark obsession. The police launched an investigation, but Alex had vanished without a trace. They discovered that he had used a fake identity and had no records of being a grad student or having any legitimate connections in the city. It was as if he had never existed. To this day, the memory of that night haunts me. I've since moved to a different city, changed my locks, and taken every precaution to ensure my safety. But the fear lingers, a constant reminder that the line between the ordinary and the horrifying can be thinner than we think. So, if you ever consider finding a roommate on Craigslist, be cautious. You never know what dark secrets may be lurking behind that seemingly innocent facade. Hey folks, I've been wanting to share a spine-chilling tale that happened to me not too long ago, all thanks to a seemingly innocent Craigslist job offer. Buckle up, cause this one's a wild ride. I was on the hunt for a new job and, like many others, turned to Craigslist for potential opportunities. After sifting through countless ads that seemed too good to be true, I stumbled upon one that caught my eye. The title was simple yet intriguing: lucrative opportunity for the fearless. The ad described a mysterious position, promising high pay and adventure. The requirements were vague, but it seemed like they were looking for someone willing to take risks. Now, I'm not usually one to dive into unknown territories, but the promise of a fat paycheck and a sense of adventure got the better of me. I shot an email expressing my interest, and within hours, I received a response from someone named Mr. Blackwell. He claimed to represent a prestigious organization with a need for individuals with a bold spirit. The email contained a location and a time for an in-person interview, shrouded in secrecy. Curiosity trumped caution, and I found myself driving to an old, nondescript building on the outskirts of town. The place gave off an eerie vibe, with flickering lights and a musty smell that clung to the air. I hesitated for a moment, but decided to push open the creaking door and step inside. The interior was dimly lit, and the only sound was the distant hum of machinery. As I navigated the narrow hallway, I reached a room at the end where Mr. Blackwell awaited. He was an imposing figure, tall and dressed in a perfectly tailored suit. His eyes, however, were hidden behind dark glasses, adding an extra layer of mystery. The interview was unlike any I had experienced before. Mr. Blackwell asked cryptic questions about my willingness to face the unknown and my ability to keep secrets. He spoke in riddles, leaving me both intrigued and uneasy. Despite the odd atmosphere, the promise of wealth and excitement blinded me to the warning signs. At the end of the interview, Mr. Blackwell handed me an envelope sealed with an emblem I couldn't quite make out. Inside, I found instructions for my first assignment, a meeting point, a set of coordinates, and a strict time frame. The location led me to a dense forest miles away from civilization. It was the kind of place where every rustle in the leaves seemed to echo with unseen threats. As I ventured deeper, the eerie feeling of being watched crawled up my spine. Following the coordinates, I stumbled upon a clearing where an ancient-looking door stood alone. It seemed like an entrance to another world, and a shiver ran down my spine. The door creaked open, revealing a dark staircase that descended into the abyss below. With each step, the air grew colder, and the echoes of my own footsteps seemed to multiply. The only source of light came from a faint glow at the bottom of the stairs. My heart pounded, but the allure of the unknown kept me moving forward. As I reached the bottom, the sight before me sent chills down my spine. The underground chamber was filled with strange symbols on the walls, and a low hum resonated through the air. In the center of the room was a pedestal with a single ornate box. Against my better judgment, I approached the box and cautiously opened it. Inside, I found a peculiar artifact, an ancient-looking amulet with an otherworldly glow. It was beautiful yet unsettling, and as I touched it, a surge of energy coursed through me. Before I could comprehend what was happening, the room began to shake, and a deafening roar filled the air. panic set in as the walls seemed to close in on me. I sprinted back up the stairs, the amulet clutched tightly in my hand. The ground trembled beneath my feet, and the door slammed shut behind me. Emerging into the forest, I realized the once tranquil clearing was now anything but. The trees seemed to whisper menacing secrets, and shadows danced around me, distorted and malevolent. I stumbled through the underbrush, disoriented and desperate to escape the unnatural nightmare I had unleashed. Days blurred into nights as I wandered aimlessly, the amulet growing warmer with each passing moment. Hallucinations haunted my every step, and strange visions tormented my sanity. The forest seemed to stretch endlessly, trapping me in a labyrinth of my own making. As the darkness closed in, I stumbled upon a dilapidated cabin. With no other options, I sought refuge within its decaying walls. The air inside was heavy with an ancient mustiness, and the only furnishings were a rickety table and a creaking rocking chair. In the dim light, I examined the amulet, now pulsating with an ominous glow. It whispered in a language I couldn't understand, and an overwhelming sense of dread filled the room. I realized that my ill-fated decision to take on that mysterious job had unleashed forces beyond my control. Days turned into weeks as I wrestled with the malevolent energies consuming me. The once promising adventure had devolved into a nightmarish ordeal. Shadows danced on the cabin walls, and ghostly whispers echoed through the air. Sleep became a fleeting luxury as the amulet's influence tightened its grip on my sanity. One fateful night, as the moon cast an eerie glow through the cabin's broken windows, the amulet reached its peak. The whispers grew louder, and a searing pain coursed through my veins. The walls seemed to close in, and the cabin itself groaned under the weight of unseen forces. In that moment, I understood the true price of my curiosity. The line between reality and nightmare blurred, and the once promised wealth and excitement morphed into a harrowing descent into madness. To this day, I remain haunted by the memories of that ill-fated job offer. The forest, the amulet, and the malevolent forces linger in my nightmares, a constant reminder that some doors are better left unopened. So, if you ever stumble upon a Craigslist ad promising more than you bargained for, think twice before venturing into the unknown. The consequences may be more than you can bear. Hey everyone, I've got a bone-chilling tale to share, a cautionary Craigslist story that still sends shivers down my spine. I never thought a simple search for antiques would lead me to the darkest experience of my life. It all began innocently enough. I was redecorating my apartment and had this itch for unique, vintage pieces. So like any modern soul, I turned to Craigslist. Scrolling through the listings, one caught my eye: rare antique mirror, a window to the past. The ad was cryptic yet intriguing, boasting an ancient mirror with a rich history and an irresistible price. The seller, who went by the name Mrs. Blackwell, claimed the mirror had been in her family for generations. It was said to possess unique powers, revealing glimpses of the past to those brave enough to peer into its depths. Now, I've always been a bit of a skeptic, but the lure of a mysterious antique was too tempting to resist. I contacted Mrs. Blackwell and we arranged to meet at her home. The address she provided led me to an old Victorian house, its faded paint and creaking porch adding an air of nostalgia. Mrs. Blackwell, a sweet yet enigmatic elderly woman, greeted me at the door. She led me through a maze of dusty antiques to a dimly lit room where the mirror awaited. It was an ornate, full-length mirror with an intricate gold frame that seemed to tell stories of its own. As Mrs. Blackwell recounted the mirror's supposed history, I couldn't help but feel a chill in the air. She spoke of unexplained phenomena, claiming that the mirror had revealed long-lost secrets to those who dared to gaze into it. My skepticism wavered, but the allure of the mirror prevailed. Despite Mrs. Blackwell's warnings, I handed over the cash and left her home with the antique mirror in tow. Little did I know that this seemingly harmless transaction would lead me down a twisted path of terror. The first night with the mirror in my apartment was uneventful. I placed it in the corner of my living room, and its vintage charm added a touch of elegance to the space. However, as the days passed, strange occurrences began to unfold. Late one evening, as I sat in front of the mirror, I noticed a subtle movement in its reflection, a fleeting shadow, too quick to be a mere trick of the light. I dismissed it as fatigue, blaming my overactive imagination for playing tricks on me. But soon, the mirror seemed to take on a life of its own. Whispers echoed in the dead of night, and shadows danced along its surface. I would catch glimpses of figures in the reflection, faces distorted and contorted with anguish. Each time I looked away, the mirror returned to its innocuous state, as if mocking my sanity. Unable to shake the eerie feeling that clung to the antique, I decided to research its origins. To my horror, I discovered a trail of misfortune that followed the mirror throughout the decades. Owners had reported strange occurrences, unexplained accidents, and a sense of impending doom that seemed to intensify with each passing generation. Despite the mounting evidence that I had unwittingly invited something malevolent into my home, I couldn't bring myself to part with the mirror. It had become an obsession, a haunting presence that refused to be ignored. One fateful night, curiosity overcame my fear. I stood before the mirror, steeling myself for whatever revelation it held. As I stared into the glass, the room around me blurred, and a chilling wind swept through the air. The reflection became a portal to another time, a dimly lit room filled with shadowy figures. I gasped as I witnessed scenes from the past unfold before me. Faces of long-forgotten individuals stared back, their eyes filled with sorrow and desperation. It was as if the mirror held a dark record of the pain and suffering endured by those who had owned it. As the visions intensified, I felt a cold hand brush against my own. Startled, I stumbled backward, breaking the connection. The room returned to normal, but the sense of foreboding lingered, a heavy weight on my chest. From that moment on, the mirror's malevolence escalated. I would wake in the dead of night to find its reflection distorted, monstrous faces leering at me with malicious intent. The whispers grew louder, a cacophony of tortured voices that echoed through the halls of my apartment. Desperate for a solution, I reached out to paranormal experts and even sought the help of a priest. Each attempt to cleanse or banish the mirror proved futile. It seemed as though the antique was bound to me, a cursed relic that reveled in my torment. As the days turned into sleepless nights, my mental state began to unravel. I would catch glimpses of shadowy figures in every reflective surface, not just the cursed mirror. I was tormented by nightmares, haunted by the faces that peered out from the glass. In a desperate bid to break free from the mirror's grip, I decided to return it to Mrs. Blackwell. I drove to her Victorian house, the antique nestled in the back seat. As I approached the front door, a sinking feeling settled in the pit of my stomach. The air seemed to thicken, and an oppressive energy hung in the atmosphere. To my shock, Mrs. Blackwell was nowhere to be found. The once welcoming home now stood in ominous silence. As I cautiously explored the darkened rooms, the antique mirror seemed to mock me with its malevolent presence. The whispers grew louder, echoing through the empty halls. In the room where I first encountered the mirror, I discovered a faded photograph on an antique table. It depicted a young Mrs. Blackwell standing beside the mirror, a sinister smile playing on her lips. The revelation hit me like a ton of bricks she had knowingly passed on the cursed relic, entwining my fate with its dark history. Haunted by the realization that I had fallen victim to a calculated scheme, I fled the house, leaving the mirror behind. As I drove away, the sense of malevolence lifted, but the scars of that harrowing experience remained etched in my mind. To this day, I warn anyone considering a Craigslist antique purchase to tread carefully. Some relics carry a darkness that transcends time, and the price of a seemingly innocent bargain may be a descent into a nightmarish realm that can never be escaped. If you enjoyed this story, Please subscribe to the channel so you don't miss future videos. Don't forget to like and comment below. See you in the future video.